Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Adharam Madhuram Vadanam Madhuram Nayanam Madhuram Hasitam Madhuram Hrudayam Madhuram Gamanam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhunam Vachanam Madhuram Charitam Madhuram Vasanam Madhuram Valitam Madhuram Chalitam Madhuram Pramitam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Madhuradipate Akhilam Madhuram Venur Madhuro Renur Madhuro Panir Madhura Pado Madhuro Nrityam Madhuram Sakhyam Madhuram Nrityam Madhuram Sakhyam Madhuram मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् गीतं मधुरं पीतं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं सुप्तं मधुरं रूपं मधुरं तिलकं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् हरणं मधुरं तरणं मधुरं हरणं मधुरं रमणं मधुरं वमितं मधुरं शमितं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् कुञ्जा मधुरा माला मधुरा यमुना मधुरा वीची मधुरा सलिलं मधुरं कमलं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् गोपी मधुरा लीला मधुरा युक्तं मधुरं भुक्तं मधुरं हृष्टं मधुरं शिष्टं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् गोपा मधुरा गावो मधुरा यष्टिर्मधुरा श्रेष्ठिर्मधुरा दलितं मधुरं फलितं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् ओ मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयोदीरये शृण्वन्ता स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तनम् हृदयन्तस्त भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्ठिकी आराध्यो भगवान् व्रजेश तनयस् तद्धाम वृन्दावनम् रम्या काचित् उपासना व्रजवधूवर्गेण तया कल्पिता श्रीमद्भागवत पुराणमयम् प्रेम पुमर्थो महान् श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभो मतैदं नायत्र आग्रह परः। कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्म ज्ञानाधिभिः सह कलौ नष्ट दृशम एष पुनः आर्को आधु नोदिति. This Srimad-Bhagavatam Purana is like a brilliant sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Sri Krishna, accompanied by dharma, religion, gyan, knowledge. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of this age of Kali Yuga, it shall certainly give light. Madek bandho mat sangin mad guru man mahadhana mama nistarad mad bhagya Madayanando Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavata, you are my friend, my accomplice, my preceptor, guru, my greatest wealth, and my deliverance, and my most fortune, and the source of my bliss. I offer you obeisances, O Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya Acharya Guruvar ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय. बोलो श्री व्रज भूमि वृंदावन धाम की जय. नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय. श्री राधा वियोगिनी धाम श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र धाम श्री बोलो श्री नीलाचल जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. गंगा माई की जय. जमुना माई की जय. तुलसी देवी की जय. भक्ति देवी की जय. समावेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. समावेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Hare Krishna. So, on behalf of the Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat group, I welcome all the listeners and all the Vaishnavas who are very dear to the Lord. Today is Sunday, August 16th, and we will be continuing from where we left off last time. We are still in the introduction of Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's very important to understand the fundamentals of what is Srimad-Bhagavatam and its purity amongst all the scriptures. Asimkar Prabhu very nicely summarized the last two sessions of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and I hope we all can remember these fundamentals and always keep them in our hearts, because when we do so, we are able to involve ourselves in pure bhakti, because anybody who respects and serves Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna and Radharani are extremely pleased, and that is the goal of life. Anukulyana Krishna Anushilanam Tad Bhakti Uttam. The Uttam Bhakti is classified by Rupa Goswami and Naradji as whatever pleases Radha Krishna, one should do that. One should render such services. And that way, it is classified as the topmost bhakti. So, without further ado, I would like to continue where we left off last time. Very briefly, I will kind of recap how we discussed the subject matter in our last session, where Vyasdev had made an extensive endeavor to offer the people knowledge that would help them in Kali Yuga. But even after compiling the Vedanta Sutra, if you all remember, Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta means the conclusion of the Vedas. Anta means conclusion, and Veda means the entire Vedas. Also, if you all remember, Ved also means knowledge. And knowledge can be classified into two divisions out of the different millions and millions of classifications: spiritual knowledge and material knowledge. So, Vedas deal with both these subject matters. And being Vyasdev was morose, he was sad, and at that time his Gurudev, Sri Naradji, appeared in Badrikashram, and Naradji smilingly asked Vyasdev, what is the cause? Although you have compiled so many, all the compiled the four Vedas, Rig Ved, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved. You also have spoken so nicely, giving your commentaries in the Upanishads that have been compiled by your disciples. And like this, you have also compiled the Itihasas, the Mahabharata, the Puranas. The Vyasdev asked Naradji to reveal the root cause of his sadness. And Naradji explained to Vyasdev that basically he was confused. He didn't know the root cause. Perhaps as a guru, you would please guide me. So Naradji says that Vyasdev, you have not elaborately described the sweet glories and the transcendental pastimes of the Leelas of Sri Krishna, who can alone sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe. And there's a wonderful reference based on what Naradji tells Vyasdev, that the gopis sing in the Gopi Geet, where they say, Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavi viriditam kalmashapaham shravana kirtanam Srimad-Bhagavatam bhuvi grinanti je bhuri dajana. So, in the first two lines of this verse of the Gopi Geet, the gopis are saying that Tava Kathamrit, Krishna, your pastimes, your katha is Amrit. Mrit means deathlessness or death, and Amrit means the opposite. It brings the immortality. And obviously, one who does Shravan and Kirtan, especially out of the 9 processes of Navda Bhakti, these 2 processes are sufficient in itself to elevate one to the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tattva punarjanmaneti mameti suvarjun. One who comes to me will never be reborn in this samsara, in this material world. So many places Krishna has mentioned that in the Bhagavad Gita, that because in the spiritual world, there is no qualities like birth, death, old age, and disease, like the qualities of the material world, like the inherent qualities of this samsara, where there's repeated birth and death, and in between there is diseases and old age. So those are not present in that realm known as Vaikuntha. Why? I explained that. Vai means no, and Kuntha means anxiety. So where the land where there is no anxiety, zero anxiety, just pure bliss is known as Vaikuntha. Because we are all in full of anxiety due to diseases, due to health reasons, due to money, and so many other miseries are there in this material world. And especially we have anxiety. Everybody is very, very, the most and the topmost anxiety is the anxiety of death. So all these things are not present. So the gopis also saying that Tava Katha Amrit, even while we are present we will feel the internal presence of the soul, which is Nitya Krishna Das. Mahaprabhu has said, Jiver Sharup Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. The the constitutional position, just like Asimkar Prabhu remembered so nicely, the constitutional position of the dharma of fire is heat and light. One cannot separate heat and light from fire. Otherwise, that will not call be that particular entity will not be called fire. Similarly, the jiva or the soul's constitutional position or the eternal dharma, the paro dharma of the jiva is yato bhakti radhokshaji, bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. That is also the verdict of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So like this, the Tava Kathamrit, when we hear the glories of Sri Krishna, the pastimes of the sweetness of Sri Krishna, it is like nectar. Like, although, we may have so many problems in our material life that we may be, but especially when we are serious and sincere of serving Srimad Bhagavatam, all those problems will become the crossing of this material world. Srimad Bhagavatam describes in one place will become by jumping over the water that is filled in a small calf's hoof print in the mud. If you have seen in the villages, there is footprints of the cows and there is footprints of the little baby calves. And sometimes when it rains, water fills up in those little footprints. So the footprint of the calf is so small. And it's like simply, just crossing over. It's not like crossing over the entire ocean or jumping over to like Hanumanji Maharaj. He took a big leap into the ocean, over the ocean, and jumped over the ocean and went to Lanka. But for us, those who are in the material, of course, Hanumanji Maharaj is a pure devotee, and he has got so many mystical powers. Asta Siddhi Nava. What is that in Hanuman Chalisa? Asta Siddhi Nava Nidhi Ke Data. So he has got all the different 8 perfections, the siddhis. But somebody like us who are engrossed in our practical life or material world with so many issues, Srimad Bhagavatam can come as a savior, and we can cross over this material world and this materialism. Although we are in this material world, just like crossing over the little calf's footprint, which is in the mud filled with little water. So that little water is hardly a few millimeters. So similarly, at the time of death, we will be able to cross over this Bhavasagar, which is reduced to the footprint of a calf filled with water. So this is amazing. And as we listen, our hearts will be cleansed. And this is the process of serving Srimad Bhagavatam. So Naradji advises Vyasdev that you have not sufficiently described the sweet glories and the sweet pastimes of Sri Krishna. Although the Vedic literatures contain information about the Supreme Lord, it is not that you have not written information. The Vedas have a lot of information of the Supreme Lord and the path of bhakti here and there. You have also mentioned bhakti, but you have also mentioned along with that other paths like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc., Dhyana Yoga, and so many other various levels of piety. And piety or punya karma keeps people in the material world. You have to understand, we have explained that before, that pap and punya, they both keep us in this samsar, which is like a jail. The only difference is that somebody who has done punya karma, like let's say charity, building school, colleges, hospitals, philanthropic works, etc., then they are given an opportunity. Once they leave this current body, they are given an opportunity to go into the higher places in this material world, which is the heavenly planets. There are 6 different heavenly planets, so depending on the degree of piety or punya karma, but it is like a 14-story jail. This Brahman or this material world is like a 14-story building, where the middle or the ground floor is the earthly planet or the earthly planet system. And then above there are 6 stories. Those 6 stories are 6 different heavenly planets. And there are 7 stories beneath Earth, or beneath the ground floor or the basement, which are 7 different hellish planets. So if somebody does any kind of impious activities, and their weightage at the time of death, uh, their weightage is, when on a scale, if pious activities are less and impious activities are more heavier, then they are taken to the hellish planets. Uh, all this information is given in the Shastras. Even there is a very nice conversation in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I think it is in the 6th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, of the Katha of Ajamil, and how when he was leaving his body, the Yamduts came to take him away. Ajamil had most of his life had left, had very lived a life full of sin, and at the time of death, the Yamdutas came. Anyway, so when we come to that point, we will be discussing this wonderful glories of the holy name, which Srimad Bhagavatam highlights through the Leela of Ajamil. So, as I was saying earlier, that Vyasdev is being instructed by his Gurudev, Sri Naradji, that yes, you have described, but you have described also the different paths of piety. So piety will keep persons for punya karma in the material world, just like this 14-story building with 7 stories in the basement, ground floor, and 6th up. It's still the jail. Just like sometimes, we see in through our practical experience, sometimes when there is a big politician or a big somebody who has done a very famous person in the society, who may have done a certain crime, so the judge punishes that person, so that person definitely has to go to jail. But in jail, he gets some special treatment, air conditioned jail cell, books, perhaps telephone, a better food. And then there are those criminals who have committed heinous crimes of a very high level, and those are not even allowed to mix with other what do you call, prisoners. They are put into isolation. They're not even given proper food. They're not even given light. They're put into a dark cell completely without any light. Maybe once a day, one of the guards will come and just open up a little hatch and throw some food in, and that place is infested with insects and rats and all that. So there are degrees of crime that deserve degrees of different kinds of punishment. So similarly, but at the end of the day, that so-called big politician or that white-collar criminal, he's still in jail. And that other than criminal who has committed the heinous crime of murder, etc., he's also still in jail. So the thing is that piety also keeps us in this jail of samsara. And samsara means, please remember, repeated birth, death, and in between, old age and disease. So Vyasdev is being instructed that yes, you have elaborately described all this in the Vedas, about piety, about jnana, about karma, etc. So, like this, even such description, Vyasdev said that you have to describe the beautiful pastimes of Sri Krishna specifically. Moreover, the pastimes of He who is the source of all the incarnations, all the avatars. You have not elaborately described that. So you please do that. Like this, and especially, you have not described Sri Krishna and Vrindavan Dham, specifically of Vraj Dham, the love of the Vrajvasis, the Raganuga Bhakti, Raga Anuga Bhakti. There are basically Bhakti can be divided also, or you can say the practices of Bhakti can be divided into 2 classifications. One classification is known as Vaidhi Bhakti or Sadhana Bhakti. Vaidhi means according to rules and regulations. So, for examples, most of us, we are when we take initiation or Brahma Sambandh from a spiritual master, or if we are desirous of taking initiation, we have to do some sadhana. We have to demonstrate that we will be doing some sadhana according to rules and regulations. So, for example, What are the rules and regulations based on scripture if one wants to advance and do some proper sadhana? Is first of all, one should strictly follow these four regulative principles. And Prabhupada used to call them four regulative principles of freedom. One should refrain from any kind of intoxicants. So no tea, no coffee. If you are very serious, just like an athlete or a student who wants to excel in his exams, supposing somebody, especially in India, you all know that 12th grade is considered the most important. It's a life changer, a game changer in a student's life. And students are very, some of the students are so sincere, they hardly sleep. They take so much guidance in the form of tuitions, and they are continuously, their heads are in their books, and they are so much engrossed, and they're studying hard and harder, and their goal is like 100% marks, and some of them get them in most of the subjects. Some of the students get 99.999 average. It's amazing. How do they do that? It's so because of their sadhana. That is also sadhana, because of their practice, that they have done so much effort they have put in. So we have to also put efforts in spiritual life is also a subject. It's a vigyan. Vishesha gyan iti vigyan. It is vishesh means topmost, very special, gyan and knowledge. And what is that topmost knowledge? Topmost knowledge is what the Vedanta Sutras and Srimad-Bhagavatam teach us. That knowledge is about, for example, Vedanta Sutra says the very first acronym in the Vedanta Sutra is, what is it? Janmadiyasya, which are the first two words of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Everything emanates from you. Oh Sri Krishna, you are the source of everything in the material world, in the spiritual world. The second acronym means these are short, maybe 2 words, 3 words, 4 words, that are short verses that actually can be elaborated further. The second acronym of Vedanta Sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So this has got 3 words. Athato means therefore. Brahma Jigyasa means one should inquire into spiritual knowledge. So what does that mean? It sounds like a very incomplete sentence, rightfully so. But Vyasadeva has simply put those little aphorisms or those sutras so that when the teacher or the guru has just got this clue, so then he elaborates on these sutras like Janmadiyasya or Athato Brahma Jigyasa, and then there is so much elaboration. Then the Vyas or the expound, the explanations are given from different references of the Shastra. What does Athato Brahma Jigyasa mean? The second acronym of the Vedanta Sutra. Therefore, one must inquire about spiritual subjects. So therefore means because we have got this human form of life, we should inquire about the spirituality, Visesh Gyan, the topmost knowledge. The animals cannot do that. But if we do not inquire, then we are as good as animals. Vyasadeva in Mahabharata has written a very strong verse. Ahar nidra bhai maituram chad etat naranam pashubi samana dharmena adhika visesho dharma vihina pashubi samana. Amazing verse. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Ahar, eating. Nidra, sleeping. Bhai, fear. Maitun, sex. Ahar nidra bhai maitunam cha, and Ahar nidra bhai manturande etad naranam pashubi samana. The animals and the human beings are performing these 4 activities. Samana, equally. But what is the difference between the humans and the animals? Vasudev specifies dharmena adhika visesha. Out of the 4, animals can only do eating, sleeping, mating and defending. But what as humans we have dharmena adhika visesha. We have this 5th faculty. And what is that 5th faculty? Dharma, spirituality. That is what Athato Brahma Jigyasa means. And Vyasadeva further says in that last line that Dharma Vihina Pasubhi Samana. If we do not cultivate the 5th function, which is spirituality, Dharma Vihina, Pasubhi Samana, then although we may have the human body, but we are animals. Amazing, eye-opener. So we may look like human beings with 2 hands, 2 legs, eyes, nose, etc. But we are animals if we are simply indulging ourselves in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And 90% of the people, or the majority of the people, are involved in that. So majority of us fall in that category of an animalistic attitude. This is a very, very reality. Srimad-Bhagavatam doesn't mess around. It is a no-nonsense gratha. It is a Bhagavata Purana Amalam, not only the very old Puran, the oldest, because it comes from the spiritual world. It was brought by Naradji and given to the heart of Vyasadeva. Although Vyasadeva is Mahavishnu, an avatar of Sri Krishna, he acts like a student, and that also serves as an important notice that Guru is required. If we look at any avatar of the Lord who has come in the human form of life, who has taken, like Lord Ramachandra, he had his Guru, he had Vasishtha Muni, and he had even other Gurus like Vishwamitra Muni, etc. Lord Sri Krishna himself, the Vrajendra Nandan, Nandan, Purna Purushottam, Bhagwan Sri Krishna, he took Krishna and Balram, the 2 great personalities of Godhead. They took Guru Sandipani Muni. They went to Ujjain, Avantika Puri. At that time, Ujjain was known as Avantika. So they went to Avantika Puri in the Gurukul, and they served Sandipani Muni, and Sandipani Muni gave them the instruction. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is Radha Krishna. Now, Radhaji is the topmost Guru. She is the Guru of even Krishna. She is the Guru of all the gopis. She is the Guru of Nikunja Seva. Nobody can beat Radharani. That's why Krishna is so crazy after Radha. So he took the form of Mahaprabhu with the Radha Bhav. And who can teach them? But in spite of that, to teach us, that is called Vaidhi Bhakti. That is called Sadhana Bhakti, which I was discussing. That Mahaprabhu himself took Ishwar Puripad as his Guru. And Ishwar Puripad took Madhvendra Puripad as his Guru. Madhvendra Puripad is the one to whom Srinathji or Gopalji appeared in Govardhan. And he is so nicely served by the Vallabh Sampradaya devotees in Nathdwara, that is in Rajasthan, about 30 kilometers away from Udaipur. So, like that. So, bhakti practices are divided into 2. We have to have rules and regulations. No meat eating, no intoxication, any kind. If we want to really excel in this higher subjects, the more higher the subject, the more tedious the effort should become. And then only the serious students are filtered out. That is why even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasresu kaschit yatate siddhaye. Out of the millions and millions of human beings, kaschit yatate siddhaye, only 1 or 2, a very small percentage, they can get pure bhakti or siddhi. Kaschit yatate. And there is one more verse in the Bhagavad Gita which is parallel. Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyante Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha. After many births, Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyante, one who has knowledge about the spiritual science will surrender unto me. That Vasudev, the son of Vasudev, or Krishna, is Sarvamiti. He is all in all. He is Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. Vasudev, sir, and he will surrender unto me. But Bahunam Janman Namante, it will take births. Supposing if we are listening right now to Harikatha, whether it is Bhagavad Gita or any other scriptures, it is not so easy that we can be promoted immediately to Vaikuntha or Golo. It is a process. But the good news is that whatever little we have obtained in this life regarding bhakti, it will carry on. If we have to be reborn, then first of all, there are 2 great advantages. We will at least get a human birth. And secondly, we will carry on from that point where we left off in our last life. So let's say, as an example, if somebody, just to put a number so that we can comprehend this example or this, what I'm saying very easily, is let's say if somebody did 30%, they'll reach the level of 30% of devotional service or bhakti in this life, and they leave their body, they quit their body, it happens, and then they are reborn. They will be reborn First of all, Krishna even says in the Bhagavad, actually there are 3 points. They will be born in a Vaishnava family. Srinmata Gehe, in an aristocratic family, in a Vaishnava or a Brahman family. They will be born in that, so that they can continuing education will happen in bhakti. Let's say in the second lifetime, they achieved about 65%. So then they have to come back again. And in the third lifetime, again, let's say, for example, they're born as human beings and nice uh, guidance of wonderful Vaishnavas, Vaishnava parents, sanskari with good sanskars, etc. And let's say he completes the other 35%. So then that person goes back to the Vaikuntha, to the other different Vaikuntha planets based on the bhav that devotee has for the Supreme Lord. Of course, if someone has that perfect bhav for Nandan Nandan, Yashoda Nandan, Radharaman Krishna, Gopijana Vallabha Krishna, and so many names, then like that, in that bhav, that obviously they will end up in Golok Vrindavan, the topmost planet amongst the Vaikuntha planets. So as I was saying, there are 2 delineations of bhakti practices. First is known as the Vaidhi Bhakti, or in Vaidhi Bhakti, strict sadhana is very much required. Waking up early in the morning, performing Mangalarti, following the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. So when all these things are, those make the environment very conducive. I've given this example several times. Perhaps some of the devotees who are present here may have heard this. Like for example, one may have a very good topmost quality of, let's say, that I don't know what the latest model is, iPhone Extreme, or what is it called, iPhone X. So if that model, they have expensive 1100 1200 USD dollars, and if that person is using that phone, starts that phone up, and then uh, dials a call to somebody, and as long as the signal from the cellular tower is perfect, showing all the 5 bars, the conversation will be perfect. There will be no interruption, even if they're doing a video call. It will be amazing. The download speeds will be amazing, and the upload speeds will be amazing, so that it's like real time. We feel that. But let's say, for example, if the same phone, that person goes into the basement, and in the basement now the signal is very, very, very minuscule, maybe it's only 1 bar or half a bar or almost zero, then this, even although this most expensive iPhone will not be effective in order to achieve the goal of making that phone call. On the other hand, also, if somebody is standing outside the house and and the cellular tower has some issues, and even though there are no what do you call blockages with walls or basements or anything like that, even though if there is an issue with the cellular tower, then the cellular tower is not able to transmit the 100% signal, or even 50% or 20 or 70% of the signal, then the call will be dropped or lost, right? There is no walls or no blockages or no basement in spite of that. So here what I'm trying to give you all an analogy is that this perfect cellular tower is like a pure guru who is able to transmit pure messages, like messages of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Number 1. So the conducive environment. Number 2, in order to for this environment to be completely conducive, the listener has to have a pure heart, or at least a desire to serve Srimad Bhagavatam, and desire to serve Sri Guru, the one who is speaking, with humility. And when that happens, then that strong signal of the tower enters into the mobile phone or the heart of the devotee, and then there will be no interruption. But when this person goes into the basement, and the signal, although being very strong, a pure devotee may be speaking the purest messages, it doesn't go inside because there are blockages, and blockages like basement walls and ceilings, because our heart is so much blocked due to time immemorial, due to the anarthas. Please try to understand this analogy. So when these anarthas are there, the misgivings that are there, Kam, Krodh, Moh, Matsarya, etc., so many misgivings that are there. One day we will take a class just on the anarthas. It's a very good thing to know what are the different anarthas, what are aparadhs, etc. So those anarthas are an impediment. Although the transmitter is perfect, is transmitting 100%, but the instrument or the person is not able to receive that pure message, and because of the impurity within their hearts. So what can the Guru do? So Prabhupada gives Srila Prabhupada gives a nice example. The the mercy or the kripa of the pure Gurudev or the spiritual master is exactly like the sun. The sun is equally shining upon the rivers, upon the mountains, upon the ocean, upon the land, everywhere. But what can the sun do if one refuses to come out into the sunlight? Right? If somebody just using their independence, they refuse to come out into the sunlight, then so the kripa of Krishna is always there. The kripa of Gurudev is always there. The kripa of Srimad-Bhagavatam is always there. But we should make it a conducive environment, and that conducive environment is getting rid of those blockages by following sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi bhakti, and that is at least, at best, do these four things. If one is very serious of removing these blockages, we cannot see those because that can be felt through our lifestyle. We can see through our activities how much we are materially attached, and those things because of those blockages. So we may be hearing a pure message, but because of our practices of meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex, it is Shastra. The Shastra very clearly says that one who is a very serious student, then they have to give up these things. What are those things? Striyam dutam panam shunam yatra adharma chaturvida. They are not conducive to that signal that you receive from a pure devotee. Yatra adharma. That is against the principles of pure dharma. What is the striyam? Which is having affairs or physical union outside of marriage. Dutam, that means gambling. Panam, meaning intoxicants like tea, coffee, even, because that anything that makes us go das. Our goal is to become Goswami, not just by name, but by action. That is why a lot of people, the Smartha Brahmins, and many people have the surname Goswami, but they behave completely as if they are Godas. Go in Sanskrit means, there are two meanings. Cows, and go also means these senses. Indriya means all the senses. So if we become victims to our senses by the dictates of our senses, if the senses says, yaar, bahut din se cigarette nahi piya, let's smoke a cigarette, or you know what, some friend will encourage us, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time, remember we used to drink some beer in college, it's time for us to do that now. So if the person becomes weak and gets weak by that instigation, then he says, okay, only one, what the heck, you could just drink one beer. And the person is saying, no, I've given up all these bad habits. Oh, no. Hey, what is that? You have met us after so many years. So like this, the temptation is there, and so we have to become Goswami. That is why we have all these practices. Why is there Ekadasi fasting? To control our senses. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we say this prayer before taking prasadam. It's a Bengali prayer, but it's a very nice prayer. The essence is, if you all can remember the essence, and if you cannot remember the Bengali, that's okay. Bhai Sharira Vidyajal. This body is a network of ignorance. Avidyajal. Jive phele vishaya shagare. And the tongue, Jive phele vishaya shagare. In this material world, it is the most voracious of all. Tar madhya jiva ati lobo mai surmati. Extremely difficult to control the tongue. But Krishna bado dayamoy. Krishna is very kind. Kori bare jiva joy. Krishna makes the tongue victorious, joy. Koribare Jiva joy. How? Swaprasad Anno Dila Bhai. By giving us his remnants, by partaking and honoring Krishna Prasad. Shenamrita Pao, Radha Krishna Gunagao, Premi Daku Sri Chaitanya Nitai. With great honor, please honor Krishna Prasadam. So these are the things that are conducive to bhakti. And what is not conducive to bhakti, they should be given up. So this is what sadhana bhakti is all about. And then it becomes so natural. We have so many people that by Prabhupada's mercy, they were in the West when Prabhupada came in the 1965, and he landed up in the worst areas of New York, on the 22nd Second Avenue and Bowery. Those were one of the most dangerous areas where there was so much illicit sex and drugs, and so many people were doing so many antisocial things. And Prabhupada did not have any money, but whatever little arrangement he had, he stayed there. And he slowly and slowly preached the message of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and he gave them the holy name, and he gave Krishna Prasadam, and their hearts changed. And those who are heavy drug users, like LSD, cocaine, and heroin, marijuana, all these bad habits were gone. They even gave up even basic soft drinks like Coca-Cola and those things, because those contained caffeine. They became very serious. From Go Das, they became Goswami. And what to talk about? All those habits about meat eating and drinking wine and all, everything was given up due to the love that Swamiji showed, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta. And when they followed those instructions, Krishna within the heart doubled, tripled, quadrupled, perhaps 1,000 times helped them to become Goswami. And that way their hearts were so cleansed that these things, when Prabhupada spoke and he talked, and when he gave the Harinam, all that purity, because of that, the barriers being removed, they could accept it very nicely. So this is, even so many Vaishnavas in India, they drink tea. Of course, it's not a very harmful substance, but still, it is still, some people say that, oh, without that first cup of tea, otherwise I will get headache, I cannot perform nicely. That means that tea and your tongue is being controlled by this external substance. So the whole idea is to get rid of this mentality that I am this body. Please try to understand this basic fundamentals. What I'm trying to drive here, our first goal and the most primary goal, it is like one who is admitted in, let's say, a very big name college or university. They have already gone through the preliminary classes and prerequisites before they can even get admission. So even to get into the admission of the spiritual school, the real spiritual school, is we have to understand thoroughly that we are not this body, we are a spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi, I am a spirit soul. And we have to understand that's 50% of the realization. The other 50% of the realization would be that I am an eternal servant of Sri Krishna. Or when Sri Krishna means Krishna's devotees, Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's name, everything else. Like I explained that a great president or prime minister, when they say that Prime Minister Modi or President Trump is going to Japan for the G20 summit, so obviously when they telecast it in the news, it is obviously understood that they have their plane loads of ministers and advisors and cooks and chefs and even their own family members, like their spouse, etc. So Krishna is never alone. We have to understand that. It's always in any of his Leela, whether it's Lord Narayana or it's Lord Ramachandra, the Parshads or the associates are always there. So, point being, again, I'm spending time thoroughly on this subject matter of Vaidhi Bhakti or Sadhana Bhakti, and connecting to what Vyasdev is telling Naradji. Naradji, other way around. Naradji is telling Vyasdev. So, these practices are very important to become Goswami. And as we purify, all these higher sciences will be understood very easily. Just like a student who is very attentive in class will always excel than that last bencher who is always making jokes and perhaps doing using his phone and sending messages and not paying attention to the professor. So, like that, that conducive environment is required, and that can happen only through under the guidance of a pure devotee, which is known as sadhana bhakti. It is known as Vaidhi bhakti according to rules and regulations. And the rules and regulations: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. These are the don'ts. And a good doctor or a good spiritual doctor will also recommend what should we do. Just like if I have severe diarrhea, and if I go to the doctor, doctor will first of all say, these are the don'ts. Don't eat anything oily, greasy, no pakoras, no heavy foodstuffs. You have to eat simply. So those are the don'ts. And what are the do's? The do's are, I'm going to give you medicine. Please take to it. So the spiritual doctor says our medicine is what? Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Constantly, one should make a sincere endeavor of chanting the holy names. That is the medicine to eradicate the disease of materialism that we have acquired since time immemorial. What else should we do? We should do satsang. Meet with devotees, like-minded persons, not materialists. As it is, throughout the week, we are engrossed and involved with office work and so many other involvements outside, that we are somehow or the other, based on our karma, we have to deal with it. We have to make a best use of a bad bargain. But if we keep Krishna in the center, and what is going to be the best thing, and to keep Krishna in the center and to make us strong, is satsang. Very important. Harinam and satsang, if we do not do, then we will be completely drowned in this world of Maya. I'm telling you, really, please take these instructions of these are actually the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and obviously the great acharyas, no matter who or which pantha they are following, it's still the same instructions. Satsang, Harinam, read the pure scriptures like Srimad-Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or hear. Same thing. If you are not able to read, not take out the time, then take the time to hear. It's very important to do that. And then we should also, when we have time, we get our holidays, etc. Obviously, now in the COVID environment, we can't do that. But when we get time, visit the holy places of pilgrimage. Go to Vrindavan, go do Braj Bandal Parikrama, and do all those things. Those are very conducive to bhakti. So bhakti anukulya karya jo kare jo svikar, bhakti pratikula bhava varjan angita. Whatever is conducive to bhakti, we must accept. And whatever is not conducive to bhakti, we must reject. And that is what sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi bhakti is. Those rules and regulations. They're just like that sincere student who wants to really excel and bring that 100%, in their class, so that they can admission in the best of the schools and colleges. So then, once one excels in sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi bhakti, one enters Raganuga bhakti. So this Raganuga bhakti, the word that came, that I was just mentioning in this in this conversation between Vasudeva and Naradji, is that you have not described elaborately through the Vedas and all the books that you have written about Sri Vrindavan Dham, the sweetest of all the dhams or the pastimes of Sri Krishna took place in that place, and you have not described Raganuga bhakti. So now, what is Raganuga bhakti? So I've already explained elaborately sadhana bhakti, or also known as Vaidhi bhakti. Vidhi means according to rules and regulations. Strictly follow Ekadashi on fasting and all these things. That is rules and regulations that will help us control our senses, and then we will realize that I am not this body, I am a spiritual soul, and I am the eternal servant of Sri Krishna. I am the das of Sri Krishna. When that realization comes, then we become Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atmana Sochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. Sri Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who has attained that level has become a Brahma Bhuta, has become completely situated on a spiritual platform. And Prasanna Atma, always very happy. A Vaishnava is always very happy. Vaishnava is, only time he's unhappy is Para Dukkhe Dukkhi. When others are unhappy, they are unhappy. But as far as personally they are concerned, They're always happy because they know, they have full realization that they are not this body, they are a spirit soul. So this is Brahma Bhuta. They are Prasanna Atma, always very happy. Na shochati na kankshati. They never ever hanker after material things. Na shochati. And they never ever lament even for any material thing. Something happens today, they have money, it's okay. They don't have it money, it's okay. And sama sarveshu bhutashu. That is the quality of that lakshan, of that highly realized spiritual soul who has gone beyond the bodily concept. Is he looks upon everybody equally. He sees everybody equally because he sees that this person is standing in front of me is just a bag of flesh, but inside is the real Atma. And that Atma is connected to Sri Krishna, is an ansha of Sri Krishna, a part and parcel of Sri Krishna. And that is the universal principle of Brahma Bhuta. What is the and that is the way real peace can come. Today we are all fighting with each other, especially in this age of Kali. Kali Yuga. Kali means quarrel. If we translate from Sanskrit to English, Kali means quarrel. And Yuga means a time period or a millennium. So this age, especially Kali Yuga, it's full of quarrels. The moment you take your remote control, you turn on to any news channel, look at how many positive news are there. 99% of the news are bad news. Somebody got mugged, somebody got stabbed, this politician did this, there was bombing in Lebanon, and this and that. And you know, if you look at that, if you analyze that, it's just such a horrible thing. How can we? Because most of these persons are in need of that realization that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, and we have one common principle of Sri Krishna. If we do not realize that, we cannot get that real peace. That Ishavasham idam sarvam yat kinchana jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjita magrida kasvasiddhanam. Isha Upanishad, that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasam idam sarvam, everything belongs, and one should not take anything that is not belonging to them, according to one's karma. But we all have this greedy propensity in us. We want more and more and more and more, even though we have enough. How much can a man eat? Couple puris, or maybe 5 puris, 2 chapatis, little bit of sabji, you know, maybe some kulfi, ice cream, kheer. How much does it really cost? Even then, you know, we are trying to make that endeavor to gather more and more and more money. That greed is there. Those anarthas are there. So when we go beyond those anarthas, we enter into those spiritual practices beyond the Vaidhi Bhakti, or known as Sadhana Bhakti, which related to Vaidhi Bhakti, into Raganuga Bhakti. That Raga means deep attachment, and Anuga means to follow in the footsteps of those devotees who have deep attachment for Sri Krishna. That is called Raganuga Bhakti. And the topmost Raganuga Bhaktas are the Vrajvasis, the true Vrajvasis. Okay? Please try to understand that anybody doesn't become a Vrajvasi just because they are staying in Vraj. They can become Vrajvasis, but they cannot become Raganuga Bhaktas if they do not have that prem for Krishna. We see sometimes that even in the Dham, people are, or even if you go to Jagannath Puri, etc., there are so many people who want to just empty your pockets. So you know what our attitude is, that's okay. You know, personally, I from a higher perspective, they want to do what they want to do, but you know, they have been placed in that particular place because it is by the will of Sri Krishna. They have done some piety or sukruti they have acquired so that they are at least born in the Dham, whether it is Jagannath Puri or Mathura or Vrindavan. So their job is to ask. Our job is to give. If we can give, well and good. If we are not able to, and if we recognize that our donation is not going to be used in the proper place, it doesn't hurt, my dear Prabhus and Matajis and friends and devotees, to join your palms and say, मुझे माफ कर दो. अगली बार अवश्य अगर मिलेंगे तो जरूर ठाकुर जी ने चाहा, if Krishna wants, you know, hopefully I can give you something. But at this moment, I'm not able to give you. Put a nice smile on your face. The Pandas in Mathura and Jagannath Puri are amazingly very persuasive. And every time I go to such places, my pockets become completely empty. But they become happily empty. I also decide when I go, I carry a certain amount of rupees or money that I can afford, okay, on a daily basis. So I will do that, and I have no problems that I come back. And generally it has happened 9 out of 10 times I have become completely penniless by the end of the day. After I'm taking my darshan, when I come home, then I replenish my wallet. But again, the main point that I'm trying to bring home is, do not be offensive in the Dham. This is also another very good instruction that I've learned from good devotees. Do not be offensive. They can pull your hand, they can give you gali, they can be abusive, but you have to be become Goswami. Control your tongue, control your anger. Do not. If they tell you 15 times, give me something, you can also tell 15 times, maaf karna, please forgive me, I cannot at this time. But next time, if your Jagannath wants, I will certainly meet you and I will give you. So that way we will not commit offenses. At the end of the day, they are still staying in the Dham. They have acquired much more piety than you and me. Although they may be doing whatever, that is their business with Krishna. That is my point. But we still have that discrimination of being polite and whether or not we want to give or not to give. So these are very important instructions that I've learned, and I try to follow that to the T when I'm in the Dham. So I wanted to share this with you. So that Raganuga Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti, two differences. And Raganuga Bhakti means the new doors open into a very different level of Krishna consciousness. That level of Krishna consciousness of Raganuga Bhakti actually is of a very pure level where there is so much attachment for Sri Krishna, nothing but pure attachment, not based on any of our material conditions. Please try to understand this concept. And Srimad-Bhagavatam is that particular book that has got Raganuga Bhakti, that can give Raganuga Bhakti. So that is what Vyasdev is being instructed by his Divine Gurudev, Shri Naradji, that you have not described Vrindavan Dham elaborately, the sweet pastimes of Sri Krishna and Raganuga Bhakti of spontaneous devotion. It is spontaneous, which can be performed only to Sri Krishna. That has not been very clearly delineated in all the Vedas and the Upanishads and all these things. So Naradji said all these, give whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Supreme Lord, it simply reacts with different forms and names to agitate the mind. I'm sorry, I said here. Actually, mind is in the heart. Buddhi is here. So, what Naradji is telling Vyasdev is anything that is besides pure bhakti will always agitate the mind. For example, let's say Karma Kand. Karma Kand process is given very nicely in the Vedas, right? So many different processes are there how to obtain wealth. So when one does those Karma Kand vidhis, gives donations, and they do all the yagyas and call the Brahman, and then they get a successful year. Their portfolio has increased by several crores or several $1 million. But still the mind is agitated. That mind is agitated because they are thinking now, oh, last year, I did this Karma Kand vidhi. I should now perform some more so that I can get more money. So the agitation will never stop. Whereas pure bhakti will stop all those material agitations, which Srimad-Bhagavatam is capable of giving if heard under the proper guidance of a pure devotee. And again, proper guidance of a pure devotee means we all can do that as long as we do not deviate by speaking Srimad-Bhagavatam as it is, that we have heard or read, that has been compiled by a pure devotee. So these are the simple things that we have to remember, simple but however very, very important. So we have to understand that the people in general, and very important instruction, important point that Naradji brings to Vyasdev is that people in general are already inclined to enjoy material world, materialism, and you have encouraged them more. Amazing. Now the disciple has completely surrendered at the lotus feet of Naradji. So now Naradji is blasting him. He has used the word, if I remember, jugupsitam, abominable. What you have described mostly in the Vedas, especially the part where is most of it is related to dharma, artha, kama, moksha. People perform dharma or dharmic activities, spiritual, not spiritual, but they perform piety, pious activities so that they can get artha, they can get money. And when they get more money, kama, their desires are fulfilled. Desires don't stop. Supposing today, if we are making $100,000 a year, we always have desires for more material, better car, better home, better this, better that. And then, let's say next year, same time, if that same person is making $1 million a year, you think his desires are going to stop? No. As a matter of fact, desires will even more increase. Material desires will multiply. Now that we want a nicer car, we want a boat, we want a private aircraft. All these things, they keep on adding. There is no limit. So that is the reason why Naradji is saying that people are naturally inclined to join, and you have encouraged them in the name of religion by dharma, and this is verily condemned, jugupsitam, and is quite unreasonable. And because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of dharma, in the name of religion, and will hardly care for prohibitions. So last time we explained that how in the Vedas there is some provision with a lot of restrictions on meat eating. And people have not cared for the restrictions, but they have quoted the Vedas. That, hey, Vyasadeva says, written Vedas, it says you can eat meat, but there are so many restrictions. But for those people who just cannot give up meat eating and they are so much addicted to it, then the Vedas are kind. Krishna is kind. Vyasadeva is kind. Okay, there is a process so that you can slowly give up meat eating on a particular night, under the instruction of a particular person. You have to read the following instructions. Like I'm cutting you, oh animal, I'm sacrificing you, but you have the right to do so in the next birth. And you can do that to me as well. So when the person is actually following those regulations, speaking those shlokas, then the person may start thinking, why am I doing this? Next birth, I may have to become a goat or some animal or a bird or a chicken or something, and I will be cut into pieces. It's not worth it. So like that mentality changes. That consciousness level from that gross, dense darkness comes towards light. And that is why those provisions are there. But Naradji is what? People, and that's exactly what happened. That is why Lord Buddha had to appear. Keshavadrita Buddha Sarira, Jai Jagadisha Hare. Lord Krishna incarnated himself as Lord Buddha because there was so much rampant meat eating 2,500 years ago that he said that, oh, forget the Vedas. There is no soul. There is no afterlife. Shunya. Everything is zero once you attain death. So Lord Krishna took that role to stop, and then the great emperors like Ashoka, etc. came and became Buddhist, and they spread ahimsa, parodharma. The topmost dharma is ahimsa, non-violence. So at that time, the topmost dharma was not Krishna. It was like that. Then of course, after that, to re-establish the Vedas, Lord Buddha, after he left, Krishna had to send his dearmost devotee, Lord Shankar Mahadev, and he came as Shankaracharya Pad, like that. And then Madhvacharya Pad came, Ramanujacharya came, etc., to establish the pure principles of Vaishnavism. So, like this, he informed him that by taking shelter of bhakti, devotion to Sri Krishna, Vyasadeva would be able to describe Krishna's sweet pastimes. So Vyasdev, he the instructions very seriously, and by the mercy of Naradji, he was able to write Srimad-Bhagavatam, the very essence of the Vedic literature, the blissful pastimes of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And with a pure heart, Vyasdev became absorbed in meditation, and through the process of bhakti yoga, pure devotion, he thus saw the Supreme Person Sri Krishna. Just like Krishna gave instructions to Brahmaji in the beginning of creation, similarly, he gave a vision to Vyasdev, along with his external energy, Maya. Yeah. There's that famous verse, I think I mentioned that last time. Kararavinde, the Padaravindam, Padaravindam Viniveshiyantam, Vatasya Patra Shapute Shayanam, Balam Mukundam Manasas Marami, where Krishna, at the time of devastation, that heavy devastation that is caused by Maya is there, but Krishna is lying on a little leaf, Vata Patra, the banyan leaf, and he is being tossed on the oceans of the uncontrollable storms, which Vyasdev sees and sees. When Vyasdev was warned by Krishna, you really want to see my Maya? If I show you my Maya, there'll be a major problem, so you think twice. So like this, Vyasdev still wanted to see, so Krishna gave him both the spiritual energy, the Mahamaya's darshan, as well as gave him bhakti, so that he could be saved and he could save everybody else by compiling Srimad-Bhagavatam. So like this, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Vyasdev was blessed. So how did this Srimad, there's some history of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So Vyasdev wrote the Srimad-Bhagavatam, but it had to be manifest to the people. So what was that beautiful Leela or the pastime? So in that, 5,000 years ago, the most virtuous emperor, Maharaj Parikshit, who was the grandson of Arjun, the son of Abhimanyu, and of course he is also the grandson of the Pandavas, the Yudhishthira Maharaj, etc. He was a Chakravati, an emperor who ruled the entire world. The world actually was all under his feet, basically. So many kings are there ruling the world. Everything was Bharatvarsh at that time. And many kings ruled many provinces and many kingdoms. But a Chakravati Raja or an emperor is when all the other kings become subservient to him. Especially when back in those days, they used to do occasionally do the Ashwamedh Yagya, where a white horse was released and through the different kingdoms, and whoever took the reins of the horse and stopped him, that means that particular king did not accept the authority of that emperor. And then there would ensue a yuddha or a war, and in that war, a powerful emperor would defeat that king, and then again that king would put his crown at his feet and say, I accept you as the emperor. So Parikshit Maharaj was not a king. He was not an ordinary person. He was the emperor of the entire world. And although he possessed unrivaled opulence, he was free from attachment to it. He was a Raja Rishi. That's an amazing word that is also being used in the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter. Krishna uses that. I spoke this Bhagavad Gita millions and millions of years ago before to the different Raj Rishis, to the sun god Vivashwan, who was a king, but at heart he is a rishi, a saint, not attached to the materialism. They always ruled their kingdom considering that they are my instruments. The kingdom belongs to me, but they were simply caretakers. That is the Raj Rishi. We explained that in our previous Bhagavad Kathas. What are real Raj Rishis? All those great kings and emperors that are there, King Dashrath, Janak Maharaj, Lord Ramachandra, of course, he is the Supreme Lord himself. But the point being, Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, they were all Raj Rishis. They never ever considered that it is their own, the kingdom, not even one penny. Such are the real rulers. Where are those rulers today? Any of them are classified as Raj Rishis? No. Nowhere in the world today. Nowhere. Nowhere. Everybody has some agenda. And it could be even a pious agenda. That piety is for their own good. It is not for Sri Krishna. Even there are certain prime ministers who are very pious in nature, and they are working day and night, and they're not allowing any kind of corruption to seep in, and not they are taking any money, and they are also sleeping, eating in a very ordinary fashion. They have some good pious qualities, but they don't have the pure transcendental Shuddha Sattva, because the Shuddha Sattvam will immediately see Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu, and that everybody is equal and they are all answers of Sri Krishna. That is the distinction between a pious king and between a Raj Rishi. So Parikshit Maharaj, being a Raj Rishi, he was bereft of any kind of attachment. He was famous as a sage among the kings, and all were very happy under his reign. All the other kings, even his enemies, were willingly bowed before him. He commanded so much respect. So one time it so happened that while in the forest, by the will of God, by the will of Krishna, he actually went for a hunting trip, and he became extremely tired. He was chasing and chasing, and the deer would just not come into his grip. And being very determined, but that is one of the qualities of a great person, determination. If one is determined to achieve anything, he will do. So out of determination, great determination, Parikshit Maharaj chased the deer into the deepest of the forest. And at that time, he became very, very tired. He got exhausted. His horse got exhausted, and then we were both very extremely thirsty. They searched for water, and they could not find anything. But then he saw that there was one hermitage, where there was the great sage Shamik Rishi residing. And the sage was in deep meditation. He didn't even realize that Parikshit Maharaj arrived in front of his hermitage, of his kutia, and he was sitting outside his hut, his bhajan kutir, and Parikshit Maharaj was still seated on his horse, and he was very, very thirsty, and he asked for water. And when the sage did not respond, Swami Rishi, being absorbed in his bhajan, he was in a very, very deep samadhi. He could not hear, or he could not even understand that the great emperor personally had arrived at his doorstep. And then when that happened, he said 2-3 times, he said, "Please, I need some water. Can you please give me water?" So not paying attention, obviously because he was in samadhi, in a trance, uh, Parikshit Maharaj became very uncommonly, uncharacteristically angry. That was displayed, and this was also by the will of Lord. The uncommon appearance of such anger in a saintly person is not like the anger of those common souls like us in this world. In this case, there was a purpose entwined. There was a reason, with a plan that would be of greatest benefit to all humanity. Krishna had a very, very big plan, and thus he was such a wonderful saint, never felt insulted. But that particular day, out of thirst and hunger, he felt extremely insulted, and the king turned to leave the hermitage in a very, very disappointed, anger, uncharacteristically angry mood. And as he was to just turn around, he saw there was a dead snake lying on the ground. And what he did is, with the tip of his bow, while still seated on his horse, he picked up the dead snake and put it around the Rishi's neck. The Rishi didn't even realize, Rishi didn't even realize, as he was so much deep in his trance, that Parikshit Maharaj arrived. He talked to him, asked water several times, and then even a dead snake was put around him like a garland, which is an insult, which was very uncharacteristic of Parikshit Maharaj, but he did that. So like this, understanding what had happened, one of the friends of Shamikrishi's son, Shamikrishi's son was Shringi, and the Shringi and his friends were playing in the forest not too far. So it so happened that Shringi, the son of Shamikrishi, his little friend, uh, he was passing through that hermitage, and he immediately saw what happened. He saw the entire scene, and then he ran to his friend Shringi, and he said to Shringi, Shringi, you know what happened? The great emperor Parikshit Maharaj came, but he was so angry, he was burning in anger, and he had actually lost control of his temper, and there was a dead snake, and he garlanded your father with that. And immediately when Shringi heard that, he said, Iti langhitam maryadam. These are the words that in Srimad-Bhagavatam, in this particular pastime is happening in the first canto, 18th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, about how Srimad-Bhagavatam was manifest for the benefit of the entire world through the Leela or the pastime of Parikshit Maharaj and Shamikrishi. Sorry. So he said, Iti langhita maryadam. This Emperor Parikshit Maharaj has crossed all lines of social norm. Takshaha saptame ahani. I curse him that the snake known as a bird snake, that Takshaka was a flying snake, and his name was Takshaka. Saptame ahani, after 7 days, Danshati Sma Kulangaram Chodito me Tatta Druham. This Parikshit Maharaj will be bitten by this snake, the bird snake known as Takshaka, because of him having broken the laws of etiquette by insulting my father. And he takes some water in his hands and does sankalpa, and he curses that on the 7th day, by 7 days from now, Parikshit Maharaj will be killed by the biting of the serpent, the flying serpent known as Taksha. This is the curse that is being given to Parikshit Maharaj. And like this, when Shamikrishi heard that his son Shringi had given, and they were very pure Brahmins, it cannot be retracted. It is like Lord Ramachandra's arrow. Once it comes out from the what do you call, the patra, then it cannot go back. It has to be, it has to shoot at something. Similarly, a pure Brahmana's curse is also like that. It cannot, once said, it's said. So Shamikrishi was upset when he learned that the course of events, what happened, because then the son Shringi went and told the father after his tapasya, and this is what happened, Pitachri, and this is how the great emperor behaved, and I cursed him. And rather then Shamikrishi lamented, because he was of a very mature devotee himself, understanding that whatever happens with the will of God. So we should not be very much concerned. This is the way how, and so many things we can learn through Srimad-Bhagavatam, how we should react. Sometimes, when somebody may be 100% doing wrong things against us, 100%, but to not to react is of a very, very high quality of a devotee. And that is also being displayed, if I remember, in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the pastime of King Chitraketu, where Mother Parvati curses him, but he does not react at all, and he accepts Mother Parvati's curse. So Shamikrishi was sad hearing about the behavior of his son, and then, although the entire event had taken place by Krishna's desire, Maharaj Parikshit blamed himself. Now he comes to his senses. After all, when he went back to the palace, he managed to go back, and then he lamented. Like a devotee should always think, if he makes mistakes, then we all make mistakes. There's not possible that to err is human. Nobody cannot live without making mistakes. But to repentance is also a good quality of a devotee. When somebody repents, then that person should be forgiven. That should be the quality that Vaishnavas should possess. And Maharaj Parikshit actually then blamed himself and lamented that his behavior of insulting the rishi was not appropriate. He desired, actually he himself was thinking, I should be punished. He desired an immediate reaction so that he would never again be influenced by such inauspicious attitudes. So supposing if we make a mistake, we realize it, then not only we repent, but we should go one step further. I should be punished. When that pure message is in our hearts, Krishna really takes care of that devotee. That humility, actually that humility is the most important abhushan or the jewel of a Vaishnava. And that is what enamors or captures Sri Krishna. So he displayed in a very humble mood. He is thinking to himself, I should be punished. And instantly, this is what he's saying. So it was in this state of lamentation that Parikshit Maharaj heard the news. It spread like wildfire that Shringi, the son of Samik Rishi, has cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die in 7 days. And it was spread like wildfire everywhere. And then the news came to Parikshit Maharaj personally, and he wholeheartedly accepted that. Oh, in 7 days I will die. So he sat on the bank of the Ganga to absorb his mind solely on Sri Krishna. He left his kingdom, not attached at all. Now that he had got this notice, you and I, we will not get that notice. Therefore, Prabhupada said the success of human life is to remember Sri Krishna 24 hours a day. So remembrance of Sri Krishna means everything that we do should be in our consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. Whether we are working, Krishna, I'm working because I have a family, I have children, and these are your children, I'm just the caretaker. Like Parikshit Maharaj and those great Raj Rishis, emperors, they always thought of themselves as caretakers, as instruments of the part and parcels of Krishna. And that is pure bhakti. So whether one is taking prasadam, that is a Krishna conscious act. One is chanting, one is hearing. All these activities can be Krishna conscious 24/7, and if death comes, we will immediately be transported into the spiritual realm of the Vaikuntha of Golok Vrindavan. Guaranteed. Because we are 24/7 Krishna conscious. So Parikshit Maharaj was very fortunate. He got a 7-day notice. So he actually welcomed it wholeheartedly, and then he gave up everything, the whole kingdom. He dressed up like a sage with the deer skin, very no upper garment, nothing, and he proceeded into the forest towards the Ganga. So this is our forefathers used to do that, giving up everything. Today, in today's world, people are so attached, even though they are in the retired age, they are attached to their business, to their son, to their family, to the golf courses, to all those activities, instead of absorbing their minds in Sri Krishna, because death can come at any moment. We are not going to be as fortunate as Parikshit Maharaj. 7 days notice. So he became just exactly like a renowned sage and proceeded into the forest towards the bank of the Ganga. He sat there and he started to absorb his mind on Sri Krishna. It was not by chance that at the same time a multitude of great munis, rishis, they were assembled there. Those who knew who Sri Krishna was, and they arrived at that place with all their disciples. Maharaj Parikshit addressed them with great humility. Oh Brahmins, just accept me as a completely surrendered soul, and let Mother Ganges, let Mother Ganga, the representative of the Lord, also accept me in that way. I surrender to Mother Ganga. I surrender to all you Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Also accept me in that way, for I have already taken the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna into my heart. So please bless me that I will always have that I may never forget Krishna's lotus feet. Let that snake bird or whatever it is, that takshak, that magical thing the Brahman created, bite me at once. I'm not worried. I only desire that you all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, offering obeisances unto all the Brahmanas. Parikshit Maharaj sat down at the bank of the Ganges. Punascha bhuyat bhagavati anante ratihi prasangascha tad asreshu mahatsu yam yam upayanti srishthim maitri astu sarvatra namo dvijebhyah. Amazing shloka. What prayers Parikshit Maharaj is saying, that I pray that if I should take birth again in this material world, I would like to have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Sri Krishna and the association of his devotees and friendly relations with all living beings. Yam yam upayami srishtham maitri astu sarvatra namo dvijebhyah. Please bless me like that. This is the prayers that we should have. Let's say, if whenever the time arrives and we have to leave our body, and if we are fortunate enough to understand that death is coming to our doorstep, then we should remember these prayers of Parikshit Maharaj. That, oh my dear Krishna, if my actions are such that I do not even deserve to go home back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha, that's okay. Let me be born again in this material world. But I request you, in the association of his devotees, in the association of your devotees. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in one of his wonderful bhajans, in Sharanagati book, has mentioned in the section of Atma Nivedan. He says, Manasa deha geha jo kichu mor, arpilu tuva pade nanda kishore. In that bhajan, he mentions, there's very nice section where he says, Kita janma hoilo ja yatha tuva das, bahir mukha brahma janme nahi mor as. He says that if my karma is so bad, oh Krishna, it's okay. I don't mind that even if I get an abominable body of an insect, Kita janma hoilo ja. But I have one request, oh Krishna, just like Parikshit Maharaj is requesting. Yatha tuva das. He says, Maitri astu sarvatra. To those who have surrendered to you, I would like to take birth amongst them. I would like to get their association. Bahir mukha brahma janma nahi mor as. Even if I get the opulence in the topmost Swargiya lok, in the topmost heavenly planets, the opulence of Lord Brahma, but bereft of Krishna consciousness, or bahirmukh. Bahirmukh means vimukh, means to look away from Krishna. That I don't want that opulence. If you're going to award me due to my piety, that I get that great opulence of Lord Brahma, but I don't need that. This is pure bhakti, my dear friends. Think about these prayers, each and every word. You know, unless we do not read or hear about the glorious pastimes of Sri Krishna and his pure devotees, we will not even be able to even develop that desire to pray like how his pure devotees pray. Like we are like little kids. When little kids, they imitate their parents. Whatever they say, they immediately. So right now, what we should be doing is imitating those great Vaishnavas. At least we should learn these prayers, these bhajans. Realization will come in some time. At least if we say these prayers when we're standing in front of the Lord, what are we saying? Think about it. Each and every individual that is present in this assembly, I want you to, honestly, I don't want you to tell me or anybody else. When you're standing in front of Radha Krishna, Sisi, Kishore Kishori, or Radha Kirchor Gopinath, what are we praying? When we're standing in front of Sisi Gaur Nitai, in front of Lord Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Devi, Sudarshan Jiuji, what are we praying? You have to learn proper prayers. Yes, it's okay to say I made mistakes, please forgive me. It's okay that I am in need, please give me this, please give me that. It's okay to ask Krishna that. But the quality of purity in the prayers of the Vaishnavas is what we need to be aware of. The realization will come, but at least that awareness, that knowledge has to be there, how they are praying. Yam yam upayami srishti maitri astu sarvatra namo dvijabeho. I pray that if I should be born again in this material world, I will have to please let me have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Sri Krishna in the association of his devotees. Kita janma hoilo ja yatha tu adas bahirmukha brahma janma nahi more as. Bhaktivedanta Thakur goes even beyond Parishit Maharaj. So, like this, he then sat peacefully to fast until death at the bank of the Ganges. Turning to the sages, he said, "O trustworthy Brahmins, I now ask you about my immediate duty. I'm asking you a question. Please instruct me." Tataschava pracham imam viprache vishrabhya vipra iti krityat ayam sarvatmanamriya manaischa krityam shuddham cha tatra amrushat abhiyuktaha. Beautiful prayers. Request that he makes. Please offer. Please tell me after proper deliberation amongst yourself. Tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. How many of us, when we meet the sadhus or we meet some great saints or some gurujans, what do we really pray when we see them or when we ask them? This is how we should be approaching the pure devotees, asking them for their blessings. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me, instruct me, what is the unalloyed, what is the pure, under all circumstances, what is my duty? And especially those who know that they're about to die. Then specifically the duty of the person who is just about to leave the body. At that very moment, the most powerful sage of all arrived at that place. Lo and behold, the son of Vyasadeva himself, Sukadeva Goswami, he appeared. He was only 16 years old, but simply by seeing his astounding features, beautiful, big forehead, long ears, elongated hands that were touching his knees, by his bodily symptoms, one could see by his astounding features, that by the physiognomy, I think that's the word, physiognomy, by studying the features of somebody's body can tell that what this person is. Everybody, the assembled, thousands and thousands of assembled rishis who were there with their exalted spiritual status, understood that Parikshit Maharaj is now going to be given instructions by this great son of Vyasadeva, who's got this exalted spiritual status, and they all immediately rose from their seats. Great rishis like Naradji, Sutta Goswami, many great personalities were there, and they immediately offered their respects by standing up to a 16-year-old young boy. Sukadeva Goswami then sat before the king, his charming effulgence pacifying all that were present. And Maharaj Parikshit requested him, "Ata prachami samsiddhim yoginam paramam gurum purushasya eha yat karyan mriyamanasya sarvatha You are the spiritual master of the great saints. O Sukadeva Goswami, you are the spiritual master of the great devotees. And I am therefore begging to you, begging at your lotus feet, show me the way of perfection for all persons, especially for one who is about to die. Yat shrotavam yatho japyam, yat kartavyam nribi prabho, spartavyam bhajaniyam va bruviyat va viprayam. Please let me know what a man should hear. Yat shrotavyam, what he should hear. Atho japyam, what he should chant. Yat kartavyam, what is his duty? Please explain, especially right now at the time of death. And Sukadeva Goswami acknowledged the glory of the emperor's question as if it benefits all people. Questions also should be asked in such a way that sometimes we hear certain questions in a public assembly that people ask. It wastes the time of good devotees, and it wastes. Questions should be asked not in a challenging mood. Questions should be asked so that it benefits everyone. That is the proper etiquette of asking questions. So Sukadeva Goswami acknowledged the glory of the emperor's question of Parikshit Maharaj as that it's going to be beneficial to all. And the answer is approved by all those fully situated in transcendence. He thus began to recite the Srimad-Bhagavatam Grantraj, Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai, which is famous and known as the Amala Purana. Spotless. Mal means spot or dirt, and Amala means one that is completely spotless. There is no spot or no dirt. Since it is the sole purpose to nourish the soul. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radoksha je aituki aprateta jena atma suprasidati. When the soul is completely nourished. By nature, the soul does not have a glimmer of interest in this world when it's situated in its original constitutional position. The soul's only function and only interest and only dharma and satisfaction are in connection with the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is all attractive. The Vedas, they explain that the name Krishna means all attractive, the one who attracts everyone. We had explained that during the Janmashtami, the meaning of the word Krishna. The faintest trace of teachings that nurture selfish interest and thus perpetuate one's existence again in the samsara, in the cycle of birth and death, are absent in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Simply by hearing faithfully, one attains that position of pure bhakti. So, after 7 days, the snake bird Takshaka manifested and bit Parikshit Maharaj, as predicted. However, because he had heard Srimad-Bhagavatam from a pure-hearted Vaishnava, Maharaj Parikshit had by then absorbed his consciousness in the spiritual realm and had thus already left this world. Among those assembled to hear Sukadeva Goswami's narration was Srila Suta Goswami. Later, in the sacred forest of Naimisharanya, powerful sages gathered to perform a yajna, a sacrifice lasting 1,000 years in Naimisharanya. In this setting, Srila Suta Goswami narrated Srimad-Bhagavatam as he had heard it, as it is, in the assembly of all those great rishis when Sukadeva Goswami spoke the Srimad-Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And Srila Suta Goswami narrated Srimad-Bhagavatam, the best of all scriptures, to everyone present. I end here today. This was the introduction of Srimad-Bhagavatam. What can I say? Perhaps there are so many things that are manifesting within the heart. But I'm assuming that whatever we have spoken in the last 3 sessions does bring home a very important messages of Srimad Bhagavatam as being the Amala Puran, the spotless scripture, as being a non-nonsensical, nothing else but pure devotion to Sri Krishna and for the pure satisfaction of the soul. Everything else falls short of it, and that is the reason Naradji told Vyasdev, please compose something that will give this gift to the entire creation. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Ho. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.